All right, everybody, welcome back to We As. I am Gareth, hosting the show today. Glad to be back with another amazing guest episode. I'm excited to bring you a show that I've been really excited to record, and I want to welcome to the show Nkechi Nwafor-Robinson. How are you today?
Oh my God, I am thriving, like absolutely thriving. It's so funny. We had a little bit of B-roll, but
Yeah.
I'm already pumped.
Yep. I love it. And here's why I always like the listeners will have no surprise to hear me say this, but I am attracted to energy. And it's a big thing for me. And when I meet guests and I meet people, whether it's virtually, and we haven't met in person, but I'm attracted to energy, and it's something that has to kind of bring out something in me or match something in me. And it attracts me to want to dive in and to the conversation a little bit more. So that's why we're here today.
Let's
So,
do it.
Yeah,
I'm
let's
so
do it.
excited. First of all, I can talk to you with your accent like, all day. That's the only reason I said yes.
You're like, sure, all right.
I'm like, sure.
Listen, that works for me. The way you got to use what you got. You got to use what you got. That's how it works. So I'm going to do a very quick introduction and let everyone know who's listening a little bit about you, and then we're going to dive into what's going to be an amazing conversation.
Awesome.
So Nkechi is an award-winning technology executive. She provides leadership to top experts within the industry of technology. But more importantly, something that, well, as far as I'm concerned, more importantly, that drew me to you is you are the founder and the CEO of Empowered in My Skin, which we're going to dig into. You're an author, professional bodybuilder, and you're also a podcast host, which is how we got connected via the podcast panel that we did together recently. And I think you just have this amazing wide range skill set and just so many amazing stories that go with that. So I'm excited to dive into those. What I want to do first of all is, because the intro is, no one does a better introduction, especially you, than themselves. So I want you to just tell everyone about Empowered in My Skin, because that's something that just drew me to want to have this conversation.
Woo. So I actually have to talk about, I think I'll have to then really talk about what I was before I was empowered in my skin, right? Yeah. So I was totally disempowered, right? I've always been generally a very positive human, but I definitely recognize that, the trauma or the pains of my past, like being bullied. I grew up in Montreal, so experienced a lot of racism and my parents are divorced and separated, and I grew up with a lot of darkness inside of me, even though I was pushing out like this massive amount of joy to the outside world. And so Empowered in My Skin was really born from, when you kind of hit that emotional rock bottom. So that happened to me in like 2014. And luckily for me, I had a friend that was literally like, okay, I'm not going to let her sink and drown. I'm going to put out my hand. I'm going to suggest that she, does some work, on herself. And she invited me to read this book called A Return to Love. And that book by Marianne Williamson, that book changed my life. And Marianne in the book talks about fear and like love and fear, how babies are born into love. We learn fear. And I just, you hear these books, they're bestsellers. Oprah was on Oprah's book club. And I was like, what if I try? What if I just try to do what Marianne tells me? Like our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. What if I start to believe that about myself? What if I reached in and ripped out all of the pain and shame, frustration, anger, jealousy, resentment, unforgiveness, rage, and anger that I had out of me? What if I ripped that all out, put that experience in front of me, reframed the experience to one of, it wasn't there to harm me. It was there to teach me something. It was there, for me to find the love message within it and reinsert that back into me and then start to move forward from a place of love. What if? And so I did. I was like, sure, what else am I doing? Sulking, crying, woe me. And honestly, like Gareth, I have never looked back. And that book then, introduced me to like Dr. Eric Thomas, and he talks about if you want it as bad as you want to breathe, and you matter. And I just start to call it, I start to drink the juice of positivity, right? And really just shut down the negativity until I got to a point where I was actually feeling like I was levitating. Like that's how good I was feeling. It wasn't like, I wasn't hitting trials or I wasn't hitting challenges in life, but it was suddenly like they were showing up and I was literally living the Oprah life. Like they're here to teach you something, you know? I'm like, what are you here to teach me now? And I just started to use different language about myself and to others. And then slowly the environment around me changed. So I realized that by me levitating and me changing how I felt internally, I was empowering other people. And then literally feeling empowered in the skin that I was in finally, like this black skin that has been, you know, I've been asked if I scrubbed it real hard, would I wash the dirt off? Like that skin that I lived in that I just didn't like, you know, I started to love it. Oh, you know, and I was like, yeah, I was scrubbing my skin. And now I say that, you know, anyone that touches my skin says, wow, so soft and supple. I'm like, that's because I've been exfoliating for years. You know, and I was just like, you know, and then just to be able to start to share that and see that empowered humans empower humans, the domino effect of empowerment, right? And it led me to start empowering my skin. And really it was just about how can I connect with other empowered humans around the world and create this domino effect. And I have on my vision board over that says the best way to become a billionaire is to help a billion people. And I want to do that through empowering people to think in ways that are empowering and becoming lead dominoes in their lives, right?
Yeah. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. The show's over. No. So everyone's just listening. Everyone's like, okay, I've got what I need. Tick. And it's so true that what we put out in the world is empowering if it comes from the right place, and no doubt everyone's heard that in the first 5 minutes of the show, and how I was just attracted to that energy in you, because it is empowering, and it makes you question in the most positive way. It makes you question who you are, where you're headed. And makes you, you know, think about it. I'm doing it now. I'm sitting here listening, realizing I'm also hosting the show, thinking about it, and I'm like, oh yeah, there's ways to be more empowering and to empower myself. And you know, you touch on a few things that have plagued me in my life as well, and you know, mine's from a different place. I'm very fortunate and privileged to not have to have had racism in my life. You know, I grew up in England with white skin, so for me, I hadn't had that, but I did have a lot of bullying growing up. Grew up as an overweight kid and went through those challenges, and to feel empowered in my skin or in the body I'm in has been, I mean, I turned 40 and I'm next 2 months from now, and I'm still not quite there. I'm not quite fully empowered in the body that I have, or the body I'm in. So I totally resonates with me, and makes complete sense that you have to do the work.
Yeah. And you know, it's so funny. I can sit here and I say, you know what kills me about that? Because it is, I think that that's what made me so passionate to do the work. Like, so for those of you that are listening, I'm looking at a very amazing looking human. And I hope your wife's listening, because you're so damn lucky, girl. But you know, look at the pearlies, look at that smile. Come on. And the way he laughs, and you just, you know, and I sit here and I'm like, how could you, and you're empowering the world with your podcast. And still, for both of us, you know, I literally just did this episode on there's nothing imposter about you. Like I literally I've banished the imposter syndrome from my life. I'm done, you know, but it took time to get there. And I sit here and you and I think that that's a really healthy message for a lot of people. We don't have it perfect either. And we're still trying to figure it out, even though we're doing great work to do it. And so I look forward to the power that's going to come out of you that day when you just, you know, you meet that full empowerment, you know?
Yeah. I'm ready for it. I think no, I am. I'm ready for it. And there's been actually a lot of direction changes in my life in the last 6 months or so. Actually, probably this whole year. And there's been a lot of different factors, and there was a lot of, for me, figuring out what my purpose in life was. And I've kind of figured that out. And it was a lot different, because I think we think as individuals, and I'd love to hear the listeners' views on this. So send us a message on social media or email us. Links are in the show notes, to tell us what you think purpose is, and whether you agree that, you know, either you found it or you're looking for it. I think we think it's something that's so grand and so huge, and it doesn't have to be. It's what happens as a result of that purpose in life that can be grand and can be huge and can make that impact. But we do that through channeling everything towards what's important to us. And it took me, I don't even know how many years, all my years, I guess, but probably the last 5 years of really thinking about it and trying to find this grand thing that never materialized in my life. I couldn't figure it out. And then figuring out that actually it was something a lot smaller than that.
And to your listeners, I like really take him up on his offer, like respond with it, because I'm actually just getting ready to run a course on purpose. It's about understanding it, unlocking it, and unleashing it. Because to your point, a lot of people think it's this big esoteric, elusive thing that only a few people can have if you have a great voice, or if you can act, or, you have brains and technology. And it's not. All of us, if we were actually to sit down, have about 500 to 700 pieces of purpose within us, right? Like, so I'll give a perfect plain example. I love to do laundry. I love to fold. My husband likes to iron. My purpose is to do laundry, is to fold. His purpose is to iron. But it's true, because if you think about the idea, and my favorite quote is, what's his name? Victor Hugo, that says the most powerful thing is when an idea meets its time, right? Like when its time has come, right? And so you think about someone loved to iron and became a billionaire doing dry cleaning. Like, you know what I mean? Like you never know what those things that you do for free that just fill your heart. You're singing, you're humming, you're smiling while you're doing it. Those are the things that you just follow, those little nuggets. That's purpose. It's everywhere. You don't have to go somewhere to find it. You don't have to study a book to figure it out. It is there. Just start with the things that bring you joy when you're doing them, and you would absolutely do it for free.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think as well, the thing I'm coming to realize, and I think this will resonate with people a lot, is that everything you do doesn't have to be directly related to that purpose. However, it's indirect. So for example, me starting a business this year was not directly towards my purpose of being here and being present and being the best husband and dad I can be. And that for me is very much the nucleus, the center of my purpose. So, and it was like, well, what's that got to do with running an online fitness business? I'm like, because this business is structured around my ability to walk my daughter to school every day, to pick her up from school every day, to be there. And it's interesting. I had a conversation just before we launched the business, and we were sat at the dinner table, and I said to her, and she's 4. I think she's 14, but she's 4, so she has a good vocabulary and a little bit of an understanding. So I said to her, do you remember when you were younger and daddy would travel for work? I said, I'd go away and you'd be with mummy for 3 or 4 days, and I'd be away and I'd call you on the phone and you'd see me. She said yes. And I said, and now I just go down in the basement. The studio's in the basement, so I sit on my office or I sit in the studio. And I said to her, I work downstairs and I just go down 5 minutes before, and I set up and I'm ready to go, and then I come back up straight after. And she said yes. And I said, what do you prefer it when I do? Do you prefer it when I'm away, or do you prefer it when I'm here? And she's like, oh, I like it when you're just in the basement, and then I can come and play afterwards and see you. I'm like, all right, well, there's decision made. I quit my job and started a business.
Wow.
So, and that's how I was like, oh, I see now. I'm making these decisions based on me being able to be a better version of myself as a dad. Yeah. So I kind of started to figure this out, but it is kind of, like I said, they're not always direct. Like they're not
directly. It's not. Right? I love that, and in it you found your why. Like that's your why. If and just share a very similar story to what you're trying to explain. So when I walked into TD, so I work at this one of the big 5 banks. I came in with this big, massive ego, right? Like I've been moving through the ranks of leadership and TD, and I hadn't applied for a job since I was like 25, and TD came and recruited me, and so I walked in and I was feeling really big about myself, Anyway, so 2.5 years, there were certain conversations I had when I was coming into TD, it was part of the negotiations, and I was waiting for those conversations to materialize into something, tangible as I was promised. And it seemed like it was going to elude me. Right. And I remember there was an experience, and that dates back to 2014 when, I had sort of that big emotional rock bottom, but something really like an ego break from a career perspective hit me. And I realized that, things that I had hoped for weren't going to happen. and I didn't really understand why. And at the same time, something really more trauma related in my personal life. Anyway, so all of that to say that coming out of that work that I explained and feeling good and wanting to be empowered, well, I remember walking to my office one day. So this is about 2.5 years of doing that work in another role that I was recruited for within the TD organization. And I remember talking to my husband, and I said, you know, I feel so good that I think I'm just going to make everybody here that I work with feel better. I said, there's 85,000 employees at TD. I'm just going to make them all feel better. And he says, if anyone could do it, baby, you can, you know? And I literally walked into the building that day, walked into the elevator, and I started saying, great day, great day, everybody, you know? And it shocked people. But anyway, so the whole moral, like fast forward, I just continued to bring that spirit into everything. Every meeting I had was an opportunity for me to empower the experience to leave it better than I ever found it, you know? And interestingly enough, like 2 weeks after I made that sort of call to say, I'm going to deploy myself here. I'm no longer employed by this organization. I'm deployed here to do good work. Just to empower people here. That's not what I'm paid to do, but I'm going to do it because that's who I am now. And the president, I ended up being selected to go meet with the president. It was a random selection. I was shortlisted from a list of 300 to 20 and then picked out of the 20. And I couldn't even imagine, you know, so him and I are sitting there and I left that experience saying, wow, that was awesome. And then after that, just organically, I started being asked to speak on panels for women in technology. I started to be a representative for visible minorities. And then, you know, fast forward years and going years, now we're in 2021. I do motivational speeches at town halls. I've been featured on TD commercials. I've been used in ads for diversity and inclusion. And it's just astronomical. And in that period of time, I remember that role that I thought was eluding me. I got this knock, like this call one day that said, hey, you know, that role do you want it? Because if you want it, it's yours, you know, and I said, sure, you know, so because that was still something I desired in my career. But the funny thing is, Gareth, I stayed in that role for 6 months before I was moved to another role, right? And you know, I share that because that's exactly when you follow your purpose, things happen, and things that you think you want, maybe you're not getting them because you're not necessarily ready for them. Had I gone that role 2.5 years ago, I wasn't, I want to make the whole organization feel better. I was more about money, title, you know what I mean? And so I had to learn, you know, why I'm here. What will I do with that platform when I get it, you know? And that's what I say to everybody is you are so right. Your purpose is actually, it's everywhere. It's in everything that you do. And it's not necessarily correlated to maybe what you're paid for, but you can do it exactly where you're at.
Yeah. Definitely an important, but you know, both parts of, you know, your story, my story, that will make people take a bit of a broader look across their life and see, you know, where are those things of purpose, and you know, can I use those to make a greater change. And like you said, just making that the other thing that just stuck out in my head when you were talking was that trying to make everyone feel better, and you know, changing the energy is kind of what was going around in my head. And I was listening to something a few weeks back, and it was talking about how children see they haven't been able to, I guess, take in as much of the world as we have as adults, and not be able to, you know, see it through a somewhat warped lens. And it's that childlike, they see the good in everybody. And because of that, they generate the same energy. So it's kind of what you did. You went in with that, you know what, I'm just going to make this person better. I'm going to make all these 85,000 people better, regardless of who they are and regardless of what, you know, bad they've done or anything else, just like a kid would. And you only have to spend time with as someone once said to me, no one speaks more than a 4-year-old girl. So I take my little girl out. We spend a lot of time together, just out and about, like in the town we live in. And the ability for a toddler, a child, a young person to change the energy of someone else is incredible.
I know, incredible.
And I've never had so many conversations I've never connected with so many people as a result of her. And if it was, and I always joke that if my wife wasn't here, I'd have dates lined up for weeks. Because everyone is attracted to that energy, and then suddenly you're like,
Yeah.
oh, now I'm part of this conversation. No, so
I've never heard that expressed like that. I love that you shared that. Oh my God, that is so true. Oh
yeah,
wow.
yeah. So that's how we go approach life. We go approach with
Yeah.
that childlike energy and
Energy.
seeing the good
Yeah.
in everybody. And it was what I was listening to was the story, and I'll share it because I didn't actually get to the story, but basically it was having, this in an airport, grumpy person was, trying to get on their flight that was delayed, and it was, the person was swearing and shouting and then sat down in their seat behind the newspaper, and it was an elderly gentleman doing it, and this toddler was playing in the airport lounge and kept kind of pulling the newspaper down and like trying to joke and play over the top of the newspaper, and the person was just pulling the paper up and ignoring them. And eventually that persistence, by the end of it, basically stories where they were delayed for 2 hours, and he was like rolling around on the floor and playing with this like 3-year-old in the airport after being, a completely different persona at the time. And it's just how, when we see the good and we put that effort in and we consistently try and make people feel better, and we see the good in them, that they can flip it around too.
Yeah.
So.
It's this space of service, right? It's this and again, service isn't something, it's not about donating. It's serve exactly where you are. And it could be just a simple smile. Like, it's purpose, right? Like smiling at somebody who maybe it's the first smile they got in all day. And you changed a moment. How many stories do we hear? Sorry, I don't even know what your next question might be, but how many stories do we hear about people who, were on the verge of maybe taking their lives, and a simple stranger just smiled, saw them, changed their life,
Yeah, makes you, just like you said, right? Just one thing. You said something right at the beginning there where I was like, as soon as you said it, I was like, oh yeah, I got some work to do on that. And I'm already thinking of something right now within the first few minutes. So I know other people will be doing the same thing. And we truly can, right? We can change our view of ourselves and the world on the smallest thing. But know that there's a lot behind that, right? From the person maybe sharing that energy, and a lot of work, like you said, that's been done. So really, really impactful. So I'd like to take a jump back, because you touched on something that really intrigues me. So selfishly, I want to hear about it, and hopefully everyone else does. So you mentioned that growing up, so you grew up in Montreal.
Yeah, Montreal, Quebec. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So now you mentioned that you'd been bullied and kind of going through. So I'd love to hear a little bit about kind of just your experiences through childhood. What that kind of, where that led you on your journey from having that in your life, because I had it a lot, and it wasn't something that emotionally I dealt with for a very long time. And I didn't think it affected me until much later in life. So I'd love to just kind of hear a little bit about your experiences, maybe, and a little bit kind of about childhood growing up, and share some of that with us.
Yeah, no problem. And, I actually appreciate that you shared what your experiences too, because I always say, like, we don't need to look like each other to be similar. We were similar through our shared experiences, and it doesn't matter if I'm Black and got bullied, or you were, a kid that got bullied, for whatever reason, we both got bullied, and it probably generated the same type of internal emotion and pain and trauma, And so my story is pretty rich. I mean, like, my parents, if I didn't have my parents, I don't know where I'd be today. Well, obviously I wouldn't be here, but you know what I mean? Like, if I didn't have sort of the foundation that they instilled within myself and my brother. So I'm Nigerian heritage. So my parents are actually came from Nigeria back in, mid 60s. And they literally brought Nigeria here and raised my brother and I as if we were in Nigeria. So, and I had a lot of exposure. So I was able to go home when I was younger with my parents. So that also really helped to, and I didn't know it then, but I know it now in the sense that it created a foundation in me, which would come later on in life to really serve me in a very positive way. But I think, the downside of it too is they came here like full and whole. Like, they didn't come here saying that we're these Black people. They came here, we're Nigerian, we've come here for a purpose, we're going to raise a family. I'm going to, my dad was an engineer, and he started to work at Bell Canada, and he did what he wanted to do because he could, and so all that to say that when we moved to Montreal in 1978, in the heart of racism, my parents moved us into a white neighborhood. And I mean, like, all white. We were the only speckles of black, just the four of us. And, and I mean, we experienced racism at our house. People would like pelter our house with like eggs. And my dad had a white car, and they would throw red paint on it. And he would just literally go and he bought himself a burgundy Buick. You know what I mean? Like, they wrote the N word on our doors, and my parents would just kind of repaint it. And it's just, and I didn't realize that watching them also, I was taking in lessons that I just didn't know. So, but unfortunately, on the flip side of that, the bullying really did scar me, right? Like it's a lot as a kid. You experience trauma when you're the only person that people are pointing at and laughing, or somebody says something and the whole bus erupts in laughter and ridicule, and it's tough. It's tough. Like there's only so much you can shoulder and bear, and you go home and your parents don't really know anything about racism. And I held that pain. I held that shame. I held the shame of being Black. I held it for a really, really, really long time, and right into my adult life. And you don't know how that then permeates. Suddenly now you're not good enough. And then, luckily for me, I had brains, and I was into tech and mathematics. And then suddenly I'm in, IT, and I'm the only Black person. There wasn't a lot of people that look like me, let alone, not even, let's forget about my gender. Like, it's like the colors always overrode my gender, and then suddenly it became women in tech was an issue. So now I'm, Black and female, and while I wasn't being bullied, that feeling of not, feeling good enough, there's other smarter people in the room, or, you're not quite sure if people are liking you for your brains, or because they feel obligated to. Like, it was just a lot of that, just a lot of self-doubt, a lot of lack of self-confidence, lack of really understanding myself. And I'll be honest with you, like, when I tell my parents that today, they just can't even comprehend. They don't understand. They're like, didn't you see us when we were growing up? Like when you were growing up, it never phased us. And I'm like, yeah, but that's you. And so that's where I didn't get that healthy balance, where they were trying to explain to us what it was like growing up Black in Canada. They didn't even know themselves. They never considered themselves Black. They were like, Nigerian, you don't have to like us. We're here. We have a purpose for being here. And we're going to do it. We're going to live where we want to live. We're going to work where we want to work, because we can. And unfortunately, I didn't get that until later on in life. And so, it's permeated in everything, my dating life, my friendships, keeping around negative friendships because I thought I needed to, it's just, unfortunately, it permeates until one day you decide that you actually don't need it. It is not baggage you need to hold on to. It's not experiences that were there to harm you. They're not even real experiences anymore. They're long and gone, and you keep drumming them up and having them affect present moments. You've become your own abuser in a sense, and so, getting to that realization was my gift. It was my gift to a rebirth of life. And sometimes I'm very, very fortunate. I look back there for a second because I have all my journals from when I was a kid. And I remember when I pulled them out and was reading, I cried for that little girl, the pain and the shame and the embarrassment and just the desire that she wanted to just be loved and seen, and now I couldn't be more loved and seen. Like, you know what I mean? Like when I think about everything that's happening to me, like a huge organization nominated me for, WSN Most Powerful Woman in Canada, and I won. Like, what I mean? Like like it's incredible. Like, I'm like, who's that girl? And and what happened there? But I think I needed to go through all of that to be where I'm on today. I don't regret. I wouldn't choose it, but I wouldn't change it.
Yeah, I love that. That's such an important finish to that. I wouldn't choose it, but I wouldn't change it. I think that's definitely, me growing up as an overweight kid, now as a 20-year veteran of the fitness industry, exactly the same. Like, I'm not going to choose to be that kid or be a future version of that kid. but it's got me where I am. So
Right. And so you wouldn't change it either. Yeah.
no, yeah, absolutely. However, the thought of going back there is something that mentally I struggle with a lot,
Yeah.
with a lot of choices I make in life, right? And
Yeah.
not that it's always the most healthy way to motivate myself. And this is a contentious thing that a few people I've spoken to, or I've posted about it on social media, and people always have a lot to say, which is great because that's the purpose of it, you know, to spark that conversation. But often I have to, at 5 a.m. sometimes I have to roll over in bed and I'm like, you don't want to be that fat kid again. Like, get your ass up and go work out. And it's kind of ridiculous because it isn't, you know, that one workout's not going to stop me being a fat kid again, but it's what deep rooted in my head.
What's driving you.
Like,
and it's what's driving you too, no?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, some will, you know, and I love that it will split people as to whether people think that's a positive or a negative. I'm sort of psychologist, if there's any listening, having a field day right now. But it's so true that sometimes you got to use those moments of adversity and you know what you've been through to sometimes motivate you, because
100%. I truly believe that when I really realized that, you know, that domino effect of empowerment, that having more empowering thoughts about myself and from within can release, you know, this energy that then empowers other humans. It was all that bullying. I don't want people to feel bullied ever. Like in my, you know, so very similar to that. I don't want people to feel bullied. I don't want to be bullied. Like, I dare you to come after me, you know, I would like, but I don't want others to feel bullied. And so that's my drive, you know, because I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
I know what it feels like.
100%. So a couple of things that I want to go back to that you mentioned, which kind of pricked my interest. First of all, I love that you're, you know, as you mentioned, you got a lot from, you know, it sounds like you got a lot of underlying skills of overcoming adversity from your parents that just kind of went in there and did it. And that's great, because we learn things that we're not always aware of until later in life. And, you know, I credit my dad with a lot of that stuff through, you know, figuring it out in my journey. But I love that they just said, people don't have to like us. If you want, anyone listening right now, if it's safe to do so, write that down now. People don't have to like you. And that's such an important message. I need to write it down.
So I have a better one for you. Your opinion of me is none of my business. It's absolutely like I say that, like I talk, I'm fortunate I get to speak, as probably you do too, on big, large platforms. And I'm very bold. I'm here to deliver a message. And at the end of the day, your opinion of me is none of my message, is none of my business. But I invite you into this because I'm here to teach love, not hate, you know? And so take it for what you want. But it's true. Like when you can get to that place where you recognize, yeah, man, your opinion of me, I'm not perfect. I'm not trying to be perfect. I'm trying to live my best life, you know? And it's not trying to get you to like me. That's not
and it holds us back so much.
It can hold us back so much. It can make us lose our voice and our footing. And yeah, like when you can realize that, I think it's very, very powerful.
Yeah, you got to put it out there, and whatever it is you need to put out there in the world, you need to do it. Like, don't get me wrong, like don't be a dick about it. Anyone listening, because you know you need to be a decent human being still. But at the same time, you got to put out there whatever it is you need to put out there in the world. And some people don't like it, and that's really hard when you're, you know, and let's be honest, like I run an online fitness company, like it's a popularity contest for the most part, because it's such a wide market, right? You need people to like what you're about, so they come in and want to find out more, because it's such a saturated market. However, you don't want everyone, and I'm trying to figure that out slowly. You don't want everybody in. You want to get just the right people in, right? And it's important to say, I'm going to put this message out there, and if you don't like it, then move on. There's someone else. There's, you know, there's 8 billion people on the planet. So
no kidding, right? There's room for everybody. But I want to just touching on that. I want to go back to your daughter analogy, right, for a second. Because when you think about, like, now I'm thinking about like my nieces, like when they were younger, and they totally epitomize that. Your opinion of me is none of my business. I am doing my thing. And you know what? You're going to end up liking me anyway. Like, but it's true. It's so why I'm saying that, because I agree with you. It's not about going out there and being an asshole, because I don't say it from an asshole way. I'm saying from a place of love. It's that child, like you think about your daughter. I think about that. Like she is doing her thing and people are falling in love with her, just her being her, true and through. And it's because she's moving from a place of what the only she knows is love. Back to that book I mentioned, A Return to Love. Babies are born into love. We learn through our experiences later on in life, hate, you know what I mean? Like fear and all this and the other. But at her age, she's probably still just totally inundated with from a place of love, and that is very attractive. And when you move from a place of love, you don't care what other people's opinion of you is, because you're moving from a good place. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's so true. And to your point, right? Some people are going to be like, "Oh, she's a bit, it's a bit over the top," or constantly talking to everybody and interrupting, and and some people are still in the kids should be seen and not heard kind of thing, and and that's what I'd heard when I was a kid.
Oh my God, I grew up with that. Oh
right?
God.
And some people, you can see older generations, they still look upon that like, who's this kid just walking around the patio of the coffee shop, talking to everybody, sitting down at the table, and I don't stop her. I'm like, if you don't want her there, tell her. Like, I don't control her. She has a brain. Let her do her thing, right? And I would say to her, if you don't get the right response, then maybe you don't go back to that table. But just let her do her thing, and she'll go up and talk to people, and it's safe. Yeah. So it's important, but some people aren't going to like that. So I think that's just a really important message, that we have to do that. We have to do it with awareness, but at the same time, we still have to remember that not everybody.
Can I say something? And I realized, not taking it personal is important. Like, so not everyone's going to like it, but here's the key. It has nothing to do with you, right? Like they don't like it, not because of you and who you are and what you're here to do in this world. They don't like it because of their beliefs, what lives within them, their experiences that they went through for whatever reason have culminated to that reaction to what you just did. And it has nothing to do with you. Like when you can understand that their response is their responsibility and not yours, then you can start to invite that level of self-confidence in more. And you'd be surprised, right? Like anyway, you can talk about that forever, but I think that that's the whole empowerment journey that I'd love to really just have a potion. Like I wish I was like Bill Gates or Warren Buffett or Naveen Jain. I wish I had their mind on how to figure out that that magic to like, just permeate that around the world. So like the internet.
Yeah. And I'd love to hear your thought on this actually, because it just made me think of something else that is one of the things that I've kind of talked to a lot and have, journaled a lot about, is how, you only have to look on social media or anywhere on the internet or anywhere in the world to see that, a lot of people will quote and state that you shouldn't care what other people think. And I always struggle with this from my upbringing and where I was, like, being that kid that you felt kind of like nobody wanted you, no one liked you, as you then kind of turn into a bit of a people pleaser. So it's hard to do that. And I heard something on a podcast a few years back where the person spoke about how it's not that you shouldn't care what people think, because that can be quite like a narcissistic personality trait if it's quite severe. What you will care what people think, and everybody cares what people think. However, what it shouldn't do is change your trajectory for where you're going and what you're doing. So even if somebody doesn't like it, and you can say, well, you know what, maybe that does hurt my feelings a bit because I did it from a place of love. However, I'm going to keep going because of X, Y, Z. Yeah.
So I would say that my this is just my Nkechiism on this one. So I don't actually care what you think. I care about what you understood.
Okay.
Because I think truth is understanding is the truth we stand under. You understand? And so that's why I'm saying, well, let's have a conversation. Because I'm not interested in what you think. I want to know, what did you understand from this experience, and what did it drum up for you? Like, and what other perspective could you have on this? Are you able, like, when you think about it, like when you can get into a conversation with somebody, and it's not saying that every situation is going to allow you to be able to do that, but we are in a lot of situations that do. And when you can get into that situation and you just say, can you just give me another perspective? And they can't. You know what I mean? Then you have to know it's not about you. And at that point, yeah, I don't really care what you think. Because if you're not able to be, if you're not a big open growth mindset human, then bye, Felicia. I'm going to just continue to move on. And I don't think it's just you and I are just not, we're not connected that way, you know, and that's okay. I love you same way, but it's just deuces, peace out, you know? And so if you can understand that, but if you can tell me what you understood, then that means you're ready for conversation. Because then I could be like, oh, okay, okay, I can see that. I didn't see that from that angle. You know, I get that. And that's why I'm saying if we just listened more to each other and try to seek to understand, I think that's our biggest desire, is that it's really about not right or wrong. It's just people want to be understood.
Absolutely. It makes me, I have this picture in my head right now of a train. And let me explain, because I know that sounds ridiculously random. But a train, I say a train because a train is on a track. It's fixed.
Okay.
So it goes in one direction. And if you know where you're going, you know, we spoke about purpose, we spoke about direction in life. If you know what that is and you're going in a certain direction, you're going to be on your train journey regardless. So I'm the train. At multiple stops along the way, there's going to be those conversations and those people that don't like what we have to say, and there's going to be people that don't think that, you know, whatever they think of us, they don't like who we are, they don't like what we've got to say. Sometimes you're going to stop at the station, and as your point, you're just going to move on. You're just going to pull up, and the person's has no interest in understanding what you have to say or changing perspective or seeing another perspective. You just carry on. But sometimes you're going to stop, you're going to get off the train, take a little vacation there, going to widen your view on the world, and then you're going to hop back on the train and keep going where you're going. But you're now going to have a wider lens of the way you view the world.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's messed up, shitty analogy, but it was in my head.
I get it as you're explaining it. Yes. I totally get it.
But like my brain.
You're still back to the point that you're saying that you heard. You're still on that journey, that you have that North Star, and nothing's stopping you from going there because you believe in your heart of hearts that that's the direction for you.
Yeah, and you want to learn and grow on that path. So that leads me to the next thing I wanted to talk about, which this is going to be a good one, if I do say so myself. So
I was just like, don't tell me why you think it's going to be a good one. Let me understand that.
Yes, understand it. Here we go. So you had an experience growing up where you felt, and this is just my understanding of your story, you felt as though, because you were bullied by some people because of the color of your skin, that you were in an environment and everyone was the same and you were different. It sounded as though you kind of felt as though nobody wanted you. Everybody thought that way and you didn't belong. So I have a similar experience. So I was in a situation where I just thought nobody liked me because I was the fat kid. People didn't really want to be friends with me. I didn't have a lot of friends. I had a few. And then, you know, all the girls in my high school dated all the other boys that weren't fat. So they didn't want me. No one else wanted me. So I labeled everyone with the same brush. No one likes me because I'm the fat kid. And it sounds as though you did a similar thing. So mine was kind of pegged against anyone in the world. And yours may have been, and I'm putting words in your mouth, so please, you can correct me, but yours may have been against the people in your community that happen to be white. So did that create a difficult transition for you in your life where you maybe felt as though nobody wanted you there, nobody was interested, and maybe, you know, might be pushing it a bit, but everyone was racist because of the experience you had? Because I felt like that. I felt like everyone hated fat people because a few people did, or probably didn't hate fat people. They have their own shit going on, but that's how I felt. And it's just interesting to see how, you know, with your message and where you are, and how is that something you experienced, and how did you overcome that to grow as a person?
That's a great question. And let me just share a little bit something that I probably didn't weave in earlier, but because my parents didn't really care to understand, like they really never talked to my brother and I about racism, ever. And white people are not going to talk to you back then about racism. So I didn't actually know that I was experiencing racism. You
Yeah.
understand? Like, yeah, I just knew that people didn't like me, and I knew I looked different. And I knew the questions that people would ask me, and wanting to touch and ask me about the way that they touch my hair, as if it was like, they pull it to see if it come out of my head and stuff like that. And so I didn't learn that that's what I experienced until later on. So to your point, I was not polarized one way or the other. I was just this human that just wanted people that moved like me, that I know bled the blood, to just kind of appreciate and like me. You know what I mean? And so I was never actually polarized. And even if you look at my network and my tribe right now, it is truly diverse. Like, it's never pointed me in, I had one little, like, very small period in time in my life where when I got into CJEP, and then now suddenly I'm in, more diverse communities. I got sort of, I want to say, recruited by the Black Panther, like Nation of Islam, sorry, Black Panther. And it was just this switch, like this, 180-degree mindset turn on, that's what you've been experiencing. White people are bad. And then I bought into it for just a split second until I realized that it just didn't feel right. Like, no, I think we should all get along. Like, we all need to just hug each other type thing. So I was never really polarized on either mark, but I will tell you a true story. Like yesterday I turned 49. I know, hard to believe. I know he's looking at my beautiful supple skin. And in that moment, like, just the fact, like, a whole group of people got together to plan a surprise for me. And there was a moment where speech time, and they were saying these things about me. And then my husband spoke about me. And for a moment, I heard my mind almost do that, disqualify the positive, do they? And then I stopped myself, and I was like, no, I don't want you to ever forget how their words make you feel. So be present. Don't discount it. Just listen and take it, receive it, And so if anything, like, that's what it instilled in me. It instilled in distrust. When people liked me, I was like, why are they liking me? And that still permeates a little bit, but it's dissipating now. Yeah. I'm trusting myself a lot more to realize that I am an amazing human, and I'm, greatness in the making, and there's no end to that,
Yeah.
Slow cooking.
It's so, that distrust thing just actually connected a few dots for me, because I'm super good at accepting compliments, and it makes me squirm in my seat. But it makes sense that that's linked to the distrust that you build when you feel like you don't belong.
Yeah.
And you wonder why people, like, do you want, for me, it was like, oh, you would be nice to me because everyone needs the token fat kid in their group, or whatever it is, right? And you although your experience is a little, maybe a little more unique than some of the people I've spoken to that have had similar experiences to you as a kid, it's still, like you said, built that distrust, and you can see how you want to kind of almost distance everyone a little bit. And if we don't accept those compliments or whatever it is, it's easy to distance people away. And and what I realized over time, and I recorded a show about this ages ago, right at the beginning of the podcast, where we have to, when we shut down someone's compliment, it's going to make that, I know how I feel when someone does it to me. I have a really good friend of mine who, we spoke about this a lot over the years, because when I do it to him and he shuts that down, I had to explain to him one day, you realize that it makes me want to do that less, not just to you, but to everybody. So we're talking about, we're on the show and we're talking about, changing the world and being the best possible version of yourself. However, by not taking that compliment, you're stopping that process. So it's really important that we do that. It's really important that we basically figure out our shit so we can, and just accept it, even if it does make you squirm in your seat a little bit. Just say thank you.
Yeah, say thank you. That's it. That's all you have to do.
And be present, like you said, right?
And to anyone that's listening, if I can, if that resonates with you, start to listen for it, watch for it, and when that happens, just ask for a rewind. I do it all the time. I'm like, let's just rewind on that. Can you say that again? I'm learning here, and I just, I'm a quick study. Trust me, just say one more time. And then they're like, oh my God, you're so beautiful. I'm like, this is true.
Like, and again, and again, and one more time.
One more time, right? So just start to listen to yourself, and and I know that as I can start to make things seem less serious, they catch on a lot easier. So in those moments, I'm like, okay, I just need you to rewind on that. What do you mean? I just need you to say what you just said about me. Just say that one more time. I'm in learning mode here. And they're like, you look good. This is true. Okay, carry on. So just start to make it seem light, because then suddenly you realize that it's actually not that difficult. And, the most important thing is you are someone that deserves to be complimented. Believe that,
Yeah, it's so true. And if you can bring some light and some humor to it, I actually literally I was at the grocery store yesterday, the day before maybe, and I went to the counter to order something, and I asked the lady, and she was like, and she's funny enough, she said to me, can you just say it again? And I said it again, like, I was like, I think I was pretty clear. And then she said, oh shit, I just wanted to listen to your voice. It's lovely. I love your accent. And you get that a lot. My accent's a bit messed up because I've been kind of all over the world. And I live in a small town in Ontario, so people maybe don't hear my accent as much, and it's a bit strange, and people kind of have a picture, place the accent. And then the lady at the back of the counter was doing something else, said, oh yeah, isn't it wonderful? And then in years gone by, I would completely shut down, and like that embarrassment, and that everyone's looking at me and I'm the fat kid, so I'm going to hide. But instead I was like, I haven't got anything to do. I'm like, I can just hang out here and talk to you if you like. I can just talk at you. What do you want me to talk about? And then the opposite happened. Then they're totally like all embarrassed. And after, I'm like, well, you started it, so now you get it back tenfold. But I'm going to play on it because it's fun. And then it totally changes them. Like their energy changed and my energy changed. And I was just in the grocery store doing my thing. But it can completely, to your point earlier, right, completely flip that one little thing. So if we can embrace it, and then we can bring some humor and some light, and we can be playful and make someone's day, then we should be doing it.
And isn't it back to your original statement earlier on about the childlike nature, right? It's just that. And look, you can just change an experience in an environment. You made their day. They're probably still talking about it. They're probably on a podcast right now being interviewed and talking about
it. Maybe. I don't know which one. I want to listen to it.
But one of them. The grocery store podcast. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know if Metro have a podcast. Maybe. I just found out that the York Region District School Board has a podcast. I just figured that out the other
day. I mean, podcasting's the thing, right? So,
apparently, yeah. But I was I was registering.
What are they talking about, though?
Super. Like, I can get out of school, so I was like, well, I'll listen to that. I don't know. But my daughter starts school tomorrow, so I was registering. I was like downloading an app, because you get an app now as a parent, because of course you do. And and there's like, they can listen to our podcast. I was like, hold on a minute, I need to find out about this. I know about podcasts. Give me a second. So I went and subscribed to it, and then I was like, looked at the content. I was like, it sounds kind of boring, but maybe I'll have a little listen and see. Maybe I'll try and get myself on as a guest.
Yeah, there you go. Change the dynamic.
Yeah, maybe,
So is this sorry, we can talk about it after, but I'm curious to ask you, because is it her first day of school? Like she's into, would it be pre-kindergarten?
So she is junior kindergarten, half day tomorrow for the first time at this school, and then she'll be full-time junior kindergarten from Monday.
Wow.
So, yep.
Wow.
Yeah, we're very lucky. She has been in an amazing daycare since we moved to the town we're in now. So she's been there a year, and then she was in a Montessori daycare prior to like the pandemic. So yeah, we're very fortunate that she's progressed well, and she's had great teachers, and she's been socialized very well. Socialized sounds like a dog. Socialized well.
I get it. But I get it. She should be okay to be around strangers and stuff like that. I totally understand.
Yeah, she's excited.
And she's excited, right? And I'm glad we got there, because I think like that's another thing as adults that we fail to realize. Like I put so much on my calendar. You know why? Because you can't be depressed almost. You can't be depressed or in your present time when you have something to look forward to. It's very hard, And so, just put things in your calendar, like dates with friends, or, you know, a massage that you might have, or a shopping thing that you talked about with somebody. Like, just put stuff in your calendar. It will make you feel better when you know you have things to look forward to. And it's that child thing again. Like, kids look forward to things, like the party that's coming 2 weeks from now, like at their friend's house for, you know, or their birthday that's like 3 months away, and they know it,
I'm going to be 5 soon. That's what I keep hearing. I'm like, no, you're not. It's February,
like,
but it's
5 and a
soon. I'm like,
half. Yeah.
not really. I'm like, you
But
have a
they're
few months.
excited, right? Yeah.
So
So
she's going back to England for Christmas. So she's never been on a plane before. So she'll be on the plane first time when we go back to see our family. And same thing. I haven't heard anything but it. So when is it? When is it? I'm like, it's December. I'm like, when is that? Is that like tomorrow? No, that's 4 months from now. Oh, and then the next day, is that soon? Like the weekend? No. She works in like a 4-day cycle. Is about it.
Oh, I love this, because I think what I got from that is like time has actually no meaning. You know what I mean? Like, it's the relationship with time is so different than us as adults. And I love that. I wish I had that in my life. You know, people are racing for the weekend. I'm like, why? It's 2 days. Like you have 5 days of a week.
I always want to know what terrible shit they do all day if they're trying to get. I'm like, my life's awesome. I love my life. I don't care what day of the week it is.
Every day, right? Oh
Yeah,
my God.
I'm like, this is the
live that
best.
quote. Make the days to Friday count. No, don't count the days to Friday. Make the days to Friday count. And I changed TGIF to say, thank God I'm fit.
Yeah, that's right. But it's so true. I think that it's such an important message and it will lead me actually nicely to something else I wanted to talk about. It is important that we embrace those things. And I appreciate that and I'll talk for myself, but I'm coming from a somewhat place of privilege. I've been very fortunate in my life. I had, a great upbringing, and I'm also a white man. So I appreciate there's a lot of privilege there in my life. However, I still have had to make some fairly difficult choices, and, I have been lucky to be able to start a business and be able to do some things that I really like, and also work in a job that, I haven't really been at work very much in the last 20 years. Someone paid me and I did a load of fun things. And that's kind of how I went by. However, it was difficult choices, because, you'll understand this, being around the world of fitness it's not like it's paying, $500,000 salaries a year either. So you make some sacrifices for that. And the point I was trying to make was that although it comes from a place of privilege, it is important for you to look at your life and do things that you love doing. And often the people come back with that and say, well, I don't have those choices. I have bills to pay and I have this to do. Like, yeah, but we all do. Yeah. And yes, we probably all got our own shit we need to work on. However, you can make decisions to draw you in the direction of what you want to do every day. And so you can be happy and embrace it.
100%. And I think it's so vital to just maintain your overall self-care. I tell people, like, the side hustles, I think side hustles are thin. Like, like if you have, there's a job you're paid for, and then your side hustle is what you're made for, and if you can marry those two, you'll find enjoyment throughout the day. Like, you'll bring enjoyment to a job that, at one point you felt wasn't satisfying you, and suddenly it's satisfying you, not because nothing about the job has changed, but simply because you're doing more things in your life that you're drawn to your point.
Yeah. And even if you are truly, and some people are in a position where you really can't navigate out of that position because it's financial or whatever it is, then we'll go back to your point earlier when you went into TD. Like, just go in there and make better of the day and make better of the people around you, and see how your life changes when you do that. So it might not be that you have to quit your job and go and live on a farm somewhere and raise hens. I don't know, whatever. You can just make better of what you're in, right? And that flip of mindset will affect you, and suddenly your energy output changes, and the people that are attracted to you changes, and then suddenly you're winning awards and getting voted for this.
Yeah, right. And your side hustle suddenly becomes something you can monitor. I have a question for you. Something that you said earlier, and just because I'm feeling it right now. And so I can't remember what I had said, but you mentioned that you were almost there. That was when you said you felt that you were on the threshold of almost getting there. And I love that threshold discussion, because like that was like my levitation. Like, it was just, I knew that I needed to get over, like, sort of like, imagine I'm on this edge and I just needed to trust myself to just leave everything that was behind and just say whatever's in front of me is the best of my life, So what's that feeling of that you said, I feel like I'm almost there, you said, because I meant to ask you at that time is like, do you feel like, is there an energy that you're feeling? Is it scary?
Yeah. Yeah. Terrifying, actually. It's been a pretty terrifying 6 months of my life, in the best way, I guess. Great question. I love that. I love when guests ask me questions. Just so anyone listening, if you're going to be a guest, I like it when you ask me questions. It's very. I think it's a fear of where it could be, because I have lots of ideas and lots of thoughts of where things could go in my life and in business, and the kind of dream, if you like. However, I'm very quick to peg myself back from that and kind of take myself back out of that like daydream and into the reality. I think it rests on asking for help. I think I'm at this point, and this like it's like the the edge of the cliff, ready to jump and get over the canyon, so to speak. And it's about getting help from a bit of a control freak that I am. That's difficult. I want to make a success of everything I do, and I want to, regardless of how hard it is and regardless of if it's a skill I don't have, I want to learn it. I want to do it. I want to be in control of it, and it's preventing the speed in which I can move forward. I don't know if I've quite figured that out yet, but that's very honest. I feel comfortable now.
Yeah, that's really, really good. And it's that whole fear conversation, right? Like, and are you ready to realize that the best of everything is on the other side of that, and trust it enough?
When I figure that out, I'll let everyone know. If I can do that. That's a great. Actually, that will lead us into something else that will be interesting too. So, from that standpoint, is you obviously navigate a lot of things. You sound like a very, very busy person. You got lots of things on the go, and how do you navigate that? How do you find time for you, for personal development, to host a podcast, to run a business, to be an executive? How do you do that?
Yeah, I get that question a lot, and it's interesting because a lot of people are like, "Oh, you're so busy." I'm like, "No, I have a full calendar, and I'm doing the things I want to do, and I'm not busy. I'm full. I'm full, and but I always have time. We always do what we want to do, not what we have to do, right? And so, anyway, to answer that, I think how I'd like to approach that is I have a value set, and my value set consists of God. It consists of my health, my husband, my family, the work I do, and family and friends, the work I do, and then fun, right? It's those are sort of the 6 value things I put in front of me. And the way I really get through it is making sure on any given day that I'm hitting at least each of those in some shape or fashion. Sometimes it could be fun and work, right? Because it could just, you could bring the fun to work and have fun in your meetings, or, but I'm just making sure. And on days where I've over indexed on work and my husband maybe got a little bit of my time, it's not going to happen repetitively, right? So I'm very, I really try to make focus on that. So, okay, I worked late last night. Okay, today my husband's going to get a little bit more time from me. The one key attribute that I was share with you from the time my husband even met me is I give to myself first. Like that's a non-negotiable. I give to God first. I wake up, I pray, I go and work out. Like it's a non-negotiable. I do my self-care. I wake up at 4:10 now. We're trying this we used to be 4:00. And then we were 4:30. Now we're 4:10. And so between 4:10 and 8, that's my time. And I choose that time because the rest of the world is sleeping and I know that I can't be disturbed. And by 8:00, I'm committed to learn something new, something that I can share in my day, and typically by 9:00, I've shared something like, that I either took in from a podcast. Like that's when I listen to your podcast, right? It's like, first in the morning, I make sure it's positive. I make sure that it's going to feed me and fill me and fulfill me and really set the pace of my day. But yeah, I put my body through like peak stake workouts, right? Because if I can get through a leg, like a big leg workout, there's nothing in my day that I can't handle. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing worse than putting pounds of weight on you and your legs feel like they're gonna break, and you're being able to push, push through that resistance. It prepares you for your day, So, and that's how that's really what I apply. And I think if I could share, like just from mentoring and coaching, I've done it. A lot of people don't have value sets, and so things they get pulled away, and they don't hit their aspirations because they haven't even written them down, and but there's something that they aspire to, but they don't have this plan to get there, and they haven't built routines. And the power of routines, I think it's a marker for success. I truly believe it. I think if you study the greats, all of the greats, all of them, who's my guy there? The Rock, like the guy, Dwayne Johnson. I mean, he has 2 workouts by 8. You know what I mean? Like, I'm struggling with one. He has like 2 workouts, but his routine it's like when I was really trying to work on mastering, like, especially being a professional athlete, like there's a mastery of performance, and I was studying the greats like Kobe Bryant and Michael Phelps and Serena Williams, and it was just, there's no break in their routine, and I realized, my parents instilled routine in me, and I was just like, okay, that's a non-negotiable for me,
Powerful. And the reason why, and I know full well that some people listening now are saying I tried to skirt the question you asked me a little bit, but I didn't. There was a point behind it, because I wanted to circle back to it. I wanted to find out what, someone living your life and, having a full schedule balances those things, because that's something that I think is linked. It's kind of intertwined with where I'm at right now, because I want to take a step and look at how do I get help to start to maybe remove some of the things that I don't necessarily want in my full schedule, and do more of the things I do want to do, I want to learn about, right? And how do I do that? Because that's a scary, for somebody like me anyway, that's a scary place to be. But I love to hear that, we're on the same page as it comes to routines and, finding that structure. I saw something the other day that I really loved. Someone had posted a kind of like a day layout from like 5 a.m. until like 1 p.m. And their whole philosophy was done by 1 p.m. So
I love that.
Yeah, done by 1. And I was like, genius.
Oh my God, that'd be wicked. I want that life.
Yeah, right. And it was basically how they get everything done that they needed to do, and how they were able to, and it was a bit of a speculate to accumulate, getting people to help, taking things off their plate. And I'm kind of looking at the business now and saying, how do I get, and maybe not done by 1, but I pick my daughter will be finishing at 2:45. So for me at 2:30, I want my day to be finished. Apart from, probably the odd podcast that I record in the evening or whatever it is, but I want that time for my family, and it's trying to build that. But as much as I want to do that, I'm terrified at what I have to do to be able to get there.
And so I'm just going to ask you a question. Off the top of your head, one thing that you can just drop off and give to somebody else to do, because it's not for you to do. One thing.
Probably coaching in the evening.
And do you know who you can give it to?
I think so, yes. I think I'm at that point now. I don't know if the business is at that point yet, but I guess I'll just figure that out.
And what happens to Gareth if you give it to them?
I get that time back, and I get closer to my done by 2:30.
So can you do that? Can you do that? Can you do that by end of next week?
I don't know. Potentially. Yeah, I may have a few conversations, push a few things forward.
So no, it's back to that whole marrying. So why not?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's a million reasons why not, though, right? I could come up with. We could sit here for another hour, and I could give you.
But you don't actually need to.
No, I don't. But I would.
It was the first thing out of your heart.
Yeah.
And and now think about and explain for us, what does it feel like that is now time you have back? What does that feel like?
It feels scary yet empowering. Yeah. The scared of losing control on things, and the story I tell myself about what will happen if I do that, and then empowering to know that I'm doing it for the right reason. And some people will like that and some people won't, and the people that won't, it doesn't really matter.
I think the other thing that comes to me too is like, But what if we turn that around and say, by me giving it up, I'm actually serving somebody else's capabilities, talents, skills, and that they're really, really great at. And they probably really would love, this is their passion every single day, and that's what they want to do. Imagine if you can give that gift to somebody.
Mm. And that's interesting that you brought that up. It's like you read my mind, because the first thing I thought was we just took on a new yoga instructor
Mhm.
to teach in the evening, and that was exactly what I was thinking, is how great that I can bring someone on that potentially, well, definitely, I definitely can't teach yoga, so someone that can do something I don't do,
Yeah.
but also do it from a totally different place with a totally different impact,
Yeah.
and giving someone else a platform, an extra platform that they want.
Mhm.
And it's funny, when I was speaking to that person this week, the conversation was how she's like, "Oh, I don't really like to get going till about 10 a.m."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh, my fucking day's half done by then.
I know.
What are you doing? What are you doing till 10 a.m.?" Um, so she's like, "I'll teach at 8 p.m. at night." I'm like, "Great," because I never wanted to. I want to go to bed at 8 p.m. Get out of here. So, yeah, that's a really great place to
But I get
position that.
it. I get it, but I think it's more powerful. Like I totally get about, I'm probably still not great. My husband will tell you, for asking for help, and I, tend to look to the outside world like I'm this superwoman, but no, it's not. It's just that whole, I don't want to. And for a long time, it was like, because nobody could do it like I could do it. But the greatest thing is, nobody could do it like I can do it. That's good. But then nobody can do it like they can do it. And if I can be in service of helping people be great at, what is their innate passion or desire, then yeah, I learned, I mean, I'm in tech too. So, and I don't want to say it's meaningless work, but the work that you don't actually need to do, because that is not what you're purposed to do, you need to give it away to people. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's been a real learning in that, and I think it's like anything, right? It's like a, kind of see it as like building a staircase. It's a
Yeah.
bit by bit, and that was a big jump for having, actually talking of technology, having a technology software partner involved right from the very start with the business, which was difficult for me because I also don't like spending money,
Mm-hmm.
and to spend a lot of money on that up front, but to say this is a big investment, but I don't have to worry about it. Now I just type in my password and log in, and then I press the button and everything happens. It's magical.
Right? Yeah.
Don't worry about it. And like, technology, whatever, like it's done
Yeah.
for me. So
Right.
that's kind of like that learning, gradually, and that's just one little stepping stone. And that was okay because it was something I understood a small amount, but I
Mm-hmm.
knew someone else did it much better. When it comes to
Mm-hmm.
coaching, and you've been coaching for 20 plus years, and your
Mm-hmm.
people have been with you for a big chunk of that, then you trying to give away that, you're like, no
Yeah.
one, no one's as good as me. Which clearly
Yeah.
there are many people better
Right.
than me.
But nobody could do it like you could do it.
Yeah,
That's what I say. There's yeah, yeah. Anyway, I gave up the philosophy there's people better than me. No, there's people that are just different and do things differently than me.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we spoke about, I joked about that on the panel back last month that we were on together, where I was like, as soon as you accept that there's a better podcaster with a better podcast and more people listening, and then like, no, I'll just
That's
whatever, I'll just
right.
get on with it, right? That's
Yeah.
sometimes how you have to get over that
Get over that.
complex,
Yeah.
imposter
Yeah.
complex. Um,
But I thank you for answering my question, because um, I'm actually really intrigued by people that are on the edge of that threshold, and I think that edge can happen so many times in our lives. And so when you said it earlier, it there was a goosebump I felt from it, and so I wanted to, I thank you for sharing that, and I hope you figure it out. I really do.
Yeah, it's about taking those deep dives. When it's important to, or when you feel like it feels scary, but it's like you said, right? Like we said earlier,
Just
it's
do
going in
it.
the right direction. You got to
Do
do it.
it. Yes. It's supposed to. I'm doing the most scariest thing in my life, in my career right now. Like, I jumped into a role that I know nothing about. And it's like, but it's great because you start to ask, anyway, there's nothing better than doing the scary stuff. Your whole body, like the amount of endorphins and dopamine that you release, and like our body comes alive. Like my body's never felt more alive now than ever before. I'm nervous in meetings. I'm unsure of myself. I can feel it in my throat. It quivers. I don't know if I'm going to ask the right question. So my heart is pumping like my body. I'm sweating. Like my body's just so alive.
To get better, nothing better than that feeling sometimes, right? Like, if so many people that don't get to experience that for any of the right reasons anyway.
Right.
So yeah, really important that we definitely take those leaps when they're presented to us, and that's how we move forward, right? And how we grow. I'd love to, and I realize I'm just keeping an eye on the time. Not that you need to leave, but I obviously need to go to bed at some point.
Yes.
So, but I'm enjoying this conversation so much. But there is something else that we touched on earlier that I need to find out about, which we'll go there in a second as well. And then I want to open it up a little bit for anything else you want to share after that. But I need to hear the Michelle Obama story. I need to hear this story because so everyone is listening. We were chatting for 10 minutes before we started recording, and I was like, "Oh, you need to tell this story." And then you said to me, "Oh, what story was it?" And I told you, like, "Oh, I thought you were going to say that." And I'm like, "Oh, screw the other story. Now I need to talk about this one. I'm bothered about the other one. I'm done with that one. I've moved on."
So is it safe to say you're a Michelle Obama fan?
I just yes, and just as soon as you said, I'm like, okay, I need to hear this. Yes, she's amazing. And
she's amazing.
You have a story that I need to hear, and if everyone else wants to hear it, awesome. If you're still listening.
So there's a message to the story. I'm not just telling the story to brag or anything like that. So there's a message to the story, and I probably shouldn't have said all that because I'm probably just killed the cliffhanger. Anyway, but the story goes something like this. So I always forget. 2020 was the year of the pandemic. So at the because I always missed that year. Like I forget that year. Yeah.
Like it didn't exist.
At the beginning of 2019, Michelle Obama was scheduled to come in May, right, to Toronto. And I remember wanting to go, but the tickets were like astronomically, and I didn't want to sit in the nosebleeds for $500, and so I went into my network. I was like, okay, maybe my company has a box, like I was trying to see how I can get there for free. And then I just do what I always tell people to do. I put it out to God, or the universe. I just said, I want to see Michelle Obama for free. And so anyway, and it also happened to be the weekend of my anniversary because it was May 5th. Anyway, long and short, May 5th came. I didn't even get it as an anniversary gift. I didn't get to see Michelle Obama. Let's just put it that way. So time passed. And I remember there was an opportunity to see her. No, something showed up on Facebook that said Michelle Obama is coming back in October. And at the time, there wasn't any ticket information. So they'd ask you going, interested or whatever. So I put interested, And so the months passed and time passed, and we got to about July, and I was working on something at work for a recruitment event that we're going to have in technology, and I did a great job. So great that a number of us that had helped put that event together. It was then announced that Michelle Obama was going to be at this conference called Elevate in September. Okay, so the dates are important. So September, and then there was the October event in Hamilton. And so I was given a ticket to see Michelle Obama for free, right? And so I was like, you see, sometimes it's like you put it out there when you think, May could have come and gone. I was like, you see, I didn't get it for free. And, and I probably did think that. I was like, I didn't get it for free. Suddenly she showed up at the Elevate conference, and I happened to be one of the 4 recipients of a free ticket. And so I was like, yes, I get to go and see her in September for free. And I remember I was competing. That's the weekend. It was the weekend, and the Monday was going to be the event. And I was driving to Montreal, and I get this text and it says, I need a response ASAP. Would you like to meet Michelle Obama? I'm like, oh, yeah, let me think about that. Yes. Yes, I'd like to meet Michelle Obama. And I guess because of security and all this and the other, they have to put then they said, okay, cool. Just mark this date on your calendar, October 12th, right? October 11th, sorry. And so I didn't even think about it. I didn't even ask where or whatever. Like I knew the information was going to come. So I was like, October 11th. Anyway, so went to see her. She was phenomenal in September, just a phenomenal experience. But I also realized that I was going to have a Michelle Obama meet moment, coming up. Anyway, long and short, that October event was the one I said I'm interested in back in June. It was in Hamilton. And so now I'm going to see Michelle. Oh, I forgot one big piece quickly is IBM invited me to go and see her at Elevate. So now I had 2 tickets for free. And I gifted one of them to my best friend so she can go and see her. And then now I had this October experience. We're driving down to Hamilton and it just clicked into me. My God, that's the event that I said, yes, interested in, like back in June, again, putting it out into the universe. Anyway, it ended up being that she was speaking again. So I got to see her a second time for free. And we were now in the lineup. And I remember a few people that knew that I was going to go, they were like, what are you going to say to her? And I said, you know what? I have absolutely no idea. I know that I want to be in the moment. I don't want to think about it. Whatever comes up in the moment, I'm going to be good with, but I will, the one thing I can't control is how good I'm going to look, So I had my glam squad came over, my hair was done, my makeup was done. I was wearing a fab dress. I had just competed. So muscles were popping. I was so ready for this meet and greet. And now we're standing in the lineup and we're like, there's not a lot of Black women in the lineup, to be quite honest. And it was a very small select group of people that were getting this opportunity. And I remember they said, you only get 2 seconds. Like you turn, you take a picture, you say hi and you leave, and they were being very strict upon it to be able to move the line forward. Anyway, now we see her and there's an energy, back to your earlier statement about energy. There's an energy that just emanates from her that from miles away, even through television, you know how she is. Like we all fell in love with her, not being in her proximity. And it was just like, oh my God, so you're getting there and then it's our turn. And my girlfriend and I had already decided which side we were going to, which is your best side, which you don't want to mess up the picture, right? So she sees us and her eyes open up and she's like, she gives us this like big, huge hug, like against protocol. She hugs me and then she hugs, my colleague. And then we take the picture and then she turns back. And before I can even say, Michelle, she says, I need you, talking to both of us, to be part of my women's wellness initiative. I said nothing. I just decided in that moment I was going to fully be who I am, which is all about energy and fitness and wellness and everything that's good about empowering, right? And I remember she said, just go and talk to my chief of staff over there, get our contact information and get back in touch with us. And so all of that happened, that exchange. We've been communicating with their office, and I realized in the whole, there's a couple of messages that I'm hoping people have gone, beyond, like, I'm not saying it to impress you, it's just to express to you what is possible. Like, when you just choose to be you, true and through. Like when you have that level of confidence to say, you know what, I'm not trying to be anything. I'm not thinking about the moment. I'm just going to be, I know that being me in that moment is going to be absolutely enough. And it always is, and to get to that level of trust, I think it's very powerful. And then the other message is, why not put things out there in the universe? Like, why not? So many of us are scared to say something because people might think it's too big of a dream. Who cares? Hang out with bigger minded people, go knock on Naveen Jane's door, try to hook up with Bill Gates or somebody, but just put things out there. It doesn't matter. You want to be a billionaire? Put it out there, put it on your vision board, speak it into existence. It's possible. You don't know. And so don't drop the mic on your dreams and voicing them and expressing them and putting them out to the universe, and be big and bold and nasty about it.
Well, number one, awesome story. I'm glad that we held on to that, and that was and I'm hoping everyone's still listening, and they got to hear it, like these two going on. But it's so interesting that that the whole energy exchange thing, because sometimes I say that and people are like, oh, it's a bit woo woo, but I truly believe it, and there's a reason why. I literally booked a guest the other day that follows me on social media, and literally just from the odd comment and the odd message or reply to like a story, and then after a couple of months I messaged him, I'm like, you want to become my podcast? And he's like, why did you ask me? And I'm like, I feel like you should be on there. So I believe in that truly. And, you know, you just get a feel for something. And I think if you're open to that, you'll be aware of it. And when you're aware of it, things like your story happen.
Powerful things happen.
So important.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to just give you the mic. You got it already, but just anything else you'd like to share before we wrap up the show?
Yeah, you know, I think the only thing I'll share, and they will end on a positive note. Like, I caught COVID earlier this year and caught it really, really badly. So much so that you know, after three ambulance calls to my house, the fourth one landed me in the hospital and on a ventilator and undergoing treatment for 5 days. And, you know, not shared with me, but everyone shared afterwards, just the amount of fear, you know. And I remember that first night in the hospital, barely being able to breathe, just to use the washroom. I remember feeling fear. But then I also remembered the work that I've been doing for such a time as that. You know, and so the first message I'm weaving in here is, when things are great, because this too shall pass applies to the good and the bad in our lives. When things are great, listen to this podcast. You know, take in what amazing thought leaders are telling you, and do the whole why not? You know, read books, listen to positive messages, like inundate yourself, like build that toolkit so that in those big times when that fear comes, there's something in your subconscious that says, no, face the fear. You have what you need to get through this. It lives inside of you. Pull it out. And I remember I woke up in the morning and said, I'm just going to apply the same kind of thing I did at TD, positive energy to this experience. And within hours, I remember the doctors, they came in with their hazmat suits and all this, you know, standing far away, but saying, hey, we'd like to let you know that we're going to send you over to Cortellucci. And for those of you that are in the Vaughan area, Cortellucci is that new $1.4 billion hospital. Like, you can't get better in a, like when your environment is lovely, it's very easy to get better. And, you know, even on a ventilator, like, just the place is like the Four Seasons of hospitals, you know? And I remember, you know, just through that experience, finding my purpose in the hospital. And it came one day when I clicked the button to ask for more water. And I said, you know, I hate asking for a diva. I drink a lot of water. She said, oh my God, you're not a diva. All the nurses are saying, we love coming into your room. You help us be ready to go and face all the other miserable people on the floor. And I was like, if that is the only reason that I had to go through this, was to be able to be a source of energy and inspiration, motivation to frontline workers that have been, you know, just beaten down because of this, you know, whole season that we're in, this season of life, then that's enough, you know? And so, you know, do the work, build that toolkit in the times of good, because in the times of bad, there's no time to do that. You know what I mean? Like, so it's building the toolkit when things are good, so that when the bad times come, it just activates. And number two, your purpose is with you everywhere, and it's in everything. And even in the most tumultuous of times, there is a reason. Serve where you're at. Just serve where you're at. Just look around and just serve where you're at, you know? And number three, the last one is, when I knew that I was going to come out better, not bitter. You know, the difference between those two words is the word I, you know, and I said it's within me to come out better. And I knew it was going to be a struggle to get back my lung capacity, but it wasn't impossible, you know. And I dug and I said, I am not leaving a stone unturned in this world. And one day, all of us, there is a date. It's true. And why not live your best life now? Why not? Don't wait till tomorrow. This podcast is about to end. When it ends, just start. Period.
I love it. Well, I am extremely grateful and pleased that you came out of it and you survived and everything else, because, you know, it's been lots of tragedy the last 18 months around the world. So and we wouldn't have to have this awesome conversation if you weren't here.
Yes.
So that's good news.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful. I'm grateful for your time. I just like to finish the show by, and listeners would have heard this if you're a regular listener to the show, my favorite shows are always the ones where I kind of forget that I'm recording this podcast for everybody listening and I'm just having a conversation. And I get wrapped up in it, which is amazing. I'm fired up. I've made I wrote a lot of questions down, and I also made a lot of notes too. But this is definitely some important things for me to learn. I know that will resonate with a lot of people. So thank you so much for coming on as a guest, coming on and sharing your story with the We As audience. I know that lots of people will resonate. Please, if you're listening, you got anything from the show, share it. If you share it with someone you love, you care about, and get the message out there to more people, because the only way that, you know, we live by our changing the world one conversation at a time, that only happens with everyone's support. So we appreciate everyone listening. Nkechi, I appreciate you for being here and sharing your time. And yeah, thank you so much.
And if I could, I thank you. I thank you for pulling out of me what you did today, because it wasn't for me. It wasn't for you. It was for somebody out there that we don't know who, that whose life has just forever been changed. And so thank you for creating a platform where that's possible.
Thank you very much for sharing that. All right, everybody. Until the next episode, please remember, be the best possible version of yourself you can be. Keep making a difference in the world. We will catch you on the next episode.